My beloved child, do not rush to trust everything that makes your heart tremble. For sometimes what makes you feel uplifted is actually a silk-wrapped noose. There are words that come to you in your weakest moments. They do not enter through power. They enter through sweetness. They do not threaten you with fear. They lull you with the feeling of being understood. I have seen you run after sweet promises, comforting invitations, embraces that felt warm, only to discover that they pulled your soul away from the purpose I ordained. Temptation does not arrive in the form of complete darkness. It arrives clothed in false light. It does not shout, it whispers. It does not force you to take steps. It pulls you with a sense of convenience. And that is why I warn you, your generation is not lost because of obvious evil, but because of halfway good. Do not call everything pleasant a blessing. Do not assume everything difficult is a burden. Discernment is the foundation that prevents you from trading destiny for temporary ease. I have seen you many times, confused between my voice and the voice of temptation, because both approach your mind in your most vulnerable hours. My voice does not flatter. It does not lull you into believing you are already enough. My voice will make you rise, make you cut off what is toxic, make you walk into truth even when truth makes your hands tremble. But temptation will tell you the present state is fine. There is no need to change, no need to move forward, no need to face fear. It does not want you to grow, it only wants you to lie still. You once told me you wanted peace, but you have not yet distinguished peace from numbness. The peace I give is the quietness of a soul standing in truth. Numbness is the silence of one hiding from the truth. I do not lead you into empty silence, I lead you into purposeful silence. But temptation brings you into silence so you forget where you came from. There are things in life you assume are blessings simply because they make you feel easily loved. But not every acceptance is love. And not every love comes from me. You have met hands that reached out with kindness. Yet when your soul trusted them, you felt yourself smaller instead of larger. People can offer you comfort, but only I can offer you growth. Temptation makes you feel seen. I make you realize you carry value even before anyone sees you. The sweetest things often require no change from you. They only require you to close your eyes. I will never ask you to close your eyes to the truth. I do not hide you from the parts not yet healed. I bring you into the light to show those parts need me. That is the difference between me and temptation. I desire your soul to become whole, while temptation only desires your soul to remain quiet. You once believed something was right simply because it felt aligned. But emotion is not a compass, it is an untuned instrument. The places that make you feel safe are not always the places where you are protected. Sometimes they are the places where you are bound. The things that frighten you are not always harmful. Sometimes they are the doors into the land I have appointed. You once fled from challenges because you assumed they were burdens, yet I used those very challenges to open your eyes. The challenge is the place where I break dependency, laziness, and hidden weakness. But sweetness only returns you to old habits. I know you want everything quick and gentle, but you must learn that a mature soul is not forged in warmth, it is forged in fire. You are not a fragile sapling needing shelter from wind. You are a deep-rooted tree needing wind to strengthen its sap. Temptation often uses your emotions as its doorway. It knows you are weary. It knows you are lonely. It knows you long for a short compliment that stops your self-worth from collapsing. I hear all these things, but I do not compromise with them. I do not lower the standard because you are weak. I lift you so your soul no longer bows. Temptation will give you what you want immediately, but only to take away what I destined for you in the long run. I never trade your spiritual future for instant comfort. I correct you before I bless you. I teach you before I send you. If I am silent, it is not because I have abandoned you. It is the moment I test whether you recognize my voice or temptation's voice. If I delay, it is not because I punish you. It is the moment I block you from spiritual death disguised by glittering invitations. You must remember this. My voice always stands at the center of truth, while the voice of temptation always stands at the edge of what sounds reasonable. I call you back to essence. Temptation calls you to be like everyone else. I make you strong. Temptation makes you feel fine. I build you into someone with foundation. Temptation turns you into someone driven by waves of emotion. When you truly hear my voice, you will feel demands, the demand to confront, to let go, to correct yourself, to enter unfamiliar territory. When you hear the voice of temptation, you will feel ease, no need to change, no need to struggle, no need to wait, just indulge. That is why I teach you discernment, because my voice does not come to comfort your laziness. It comes to awaken the greatness I placed within you. I want you to understand that temptation does not always approach from outside. Sometimes it wears the mask of your inner thoughts, using your own voice to convince you it comes from me. It does not tell you to rebel against me. It tells you that you do not need me. It does not break my command outright. It only asks you to delay a little, compromise a little, surrender a little. That voice often begins with, "It's okay. Everyone does it. Don't work so hard. Just one more time." These words do not frighten you. They relax you. But that relaxation has a price. And the price is always a quiet weakening of the soul. I do not guide you with lullabies. I guide you with clarity. I am not sweet to anesthetize you. I am sweet to help you stand in the truth you have avoided for too long. There are moments when my voice strikes you like a strong urge, and you think it is pressure. You think I am forcing you beyond your limits, beyond your capacity, into places you are not ready for. But the truth is, I never ask of you what you cannot do. I ask of you what your soul has already been prepared to do for a long time. But you lacked the courage to begin. My voice does not avoid challenge, because challenge sharpens spiritual sight. Without challenge, you will always believe everything pleasant is blessing. Without challenge, you will always believe everything difficult is a sign that I have turned my back. I use challenge so you are not swept away by false sweetness, just as I use light so you do not lie silent in darkness. I do not do this to hurt you, but so you do not die in comfort. I want you to see clearly. Temptation and calling always walk side by side. When I prepare to bring you into greater territory, temptation arrives first. Like mirrors projecting the pleasant version of the future, it will tell you that you can arrive quicker without discipline, without sacrifice, without faithfulness. It will offer shortcuts. It will make you feel supported, while in truth it is stripping away your ability to be lifted on solid foundation. I do not place glory on weak ground. I only crown what has been refined. Temptation will lift you with air, so when the wind comes, you fall faster than anyone. Remember this: what I build is based on principle, and what temptation builds is based on emotion. I have called you many times through truth, but you prefer words that feel pleasant. You prefer counsel that does not require you to change, encouragement that never touches your wounds, messages of "I understand you" that provide no path forward. You call that comfort, but if comfort does not lead to growth, it is anesthesia. I do not lull you to sleep in the dark. I light a lamp so you can see the dust on your own hands. If something causes you to confront yourself, that is my voice. If something convinces you that you are forgiven without repentance, that is not my voice. I am not calling you to deny your mistakes. I am calling you to turn them into the foundation of your maturity. Ask yourself this: which voice leads you into action? Which voice makes you lazy? Which voice brings clarity? Which voice buries you in ambiguity? I do not confuse you. I make you see clearly. My voice may make you uncomfortable for a moment, but it will free you for years. The voice of temptation will soothe you for hours, but it will imprison you for seasons. Not because it is powerful, but because you have grown accustomed to choosing ease over growth. You must understand that spiritual life does not develop through comfort. It only grows when you dare to walk against what pleases the flesh. You have compromised too many times for what is immediate. I am teaching you to look toward what is eternal. Do not think that my voice always arrives in brilliance. I often come to you in simplicity, in silence. In the moments when you stand between two choices, my voice does not force you, it knocks. It does not invade, it invites. Temptation, however, intrudes. It wedges itself between your thoughts, magnifies your fears, inflates your cravings, and uses urgency as its tool. It whispers, if you don't decide now, you will lose. I say, if you choose wrongly, you will lose yourself. Temptation attacks impatience. I awaken perseverance. Temptation manipulates inflated desires. I touch only the dreams I have refined. I encourage you to choose the path that is not comfortable, because that path keeps you from being devoured. When you train your senses to discern my voice, you will no longer be shaken by easy invitations. You will see that opportunities do not come to test your talent, they come to test your identity. Anything that demands you betray yourself will never be a blessing. Anything that keeps you close to me, even if it tires you, asks you to let go, or leaves you standing alone, that is the way. Choose what leads you to stability, not what leads you to applause. My voice is not designed to make you liked. It is designed to make you strong as stone, and then that very strength will be a testimony to this generation. I speak this as a principle, place the standard of obeying my voice above every emotional need. Because emotion can be manipulated, but my word cannot. When you encounter something pleasant, do not immediately call it peace. Ask whether it draws you closer to me or merely makes you comfortable with your ego. Comfort makes you stop. My word makes you advance. Not because I want you to suffer, but because true life never grows in stagnation. I tell you, look toward what is difficult, because difficulty is often the place where I refine you. I do not hand victory to souls who have never learned to fight. I do not bless a heart that clings to safety. If you are to keep your destiny, learn to reject invitations that do not come from me, even if they appear beautiful, logical, or convenient. Do not ask, is it good? Ask, is it true? I equip you with this sharpness, for your generation is losing its soul merely because it believes the sweet must be the real. Enter the spiritual discipline I impart. Discipline is not a burden, it is a guardrail that protects you from the very things you think you control, but that are actually controlling you. I ask you to learn to pause before quick invitations, because temptation always runs faster than truth. I ask you to listen to me before you listen to your heart, because your heart still carries the memory of times it was lulled to sleep. I ask you to slow down, not because I want you to miss opportunities, but because I want you to see the nature behind them. Your enemy does not fear immaturity, it fears discernment. It does not fear your weakness, it fears when you know that your weakness belongs to me. When you learn to say no, that is the very moment you begin to protect what I have placed within you. My protection is not an outer wall, it is an inner spine. My word standing firm even when the world slips beneath your feet. I speak another principle. Do not let the voice of many replace my voice. The crowd may be right in their own minds, but I never build destiny on statistics. Do not let the multitude draw you away from the path I designed. Let truth lead you into territories where there are no applause. If I cause you to walk alone, it is not because you are useless, but because the light within you needs time to mature without being distorted by envy. When you step into the place I call, some will say, you are extreme. Some will say you are overly cautious. Some will say you are lost. Do not react. I have not called you to persuade them. I have called you to be faithful. Destiny is not born from praise. Destiny is born from obedience. And obedience does not require an audience. Remember, temptation always uses the voice of people to strike your heart, while I use silence to awaken your soul. I want you to know how to equip yourself when facing trial. Trials are not obstacles, they are tests to reveal which voice you are following. When trial comes, you will want to run, to negotiate, to find shortcuts. But I tell you, stand firm, not because I want you to suffer, but because I want you to know that trials do not come to crush you, but to separate what is real from what is false. You will know you belong to me when you pass through trial without losing your identity. If the trial makes you lose your trust, that is not my trial, it is temptation attacking your steadfastness. If the trial shows you what I want to correct within you, that is my hand instructing you. I do not use trials to punish, I use trials to empower. Hold to another discipline I set, do not call every encouragement support. Some encouragement arrives only to keep you in comfort. Some arrives to pull your heart away from discipline. If you listen to advice but do not listen to me, you will be easily led astray by counterfeit empathy. There are those who say, I understand you, but their aim is to make you stop fighting. But I say, I see you, so that you may rise and fight. I do not lead you into softness, I lead you into strength. I do not take you into a half-hearted sense of being loved. I bring you into a love strong enough to endure truth. My protection does not promise escape from all pain. It promises escape from spiritual failure. I place in your hand a weapon that temptation cannot steal discernment based on the end result. False sweetness gives you the feeling of victory in the moment, but it always leaves emptiness in the soul. My voice may make you tremble at times, yet it leaves a foundation behind. False sweetness brings you instant acceptance, but it makes you dependent. My voice brings you internal peace, allowing you to exist without asking permission. False sweetness always revolves around what you get. My voice always revolves around who you become. If something makes you feel strong for a few hours but leaves you weak in the days that follow, walk away immediately. I never exchange a soul for the sake of emotion. I give you one final lesson for this season. Learn to look at the destination before you choose. Temptation only shows you the door. I show you the path. Temptation leads you to what is directly in front of you. I lead you across the entire journey. Temptation teaches you to pursue convenience. I teach you to pursue what is right. If you must choose, choose the path that keeps you close to me, even if it makes you lonely, slow, or misunderstood. The nature of temptation is to trade what I destined for 10 years for what it offers in 10 minutes. I tell you, do not hand your destiny to those who sell souls with cheap promises. Hold to my voice. Hold to the spine of your spirit. Hold to the word I placed in your heart for as long as you cling to me. Everything else is only a test, never your fate. I have proven what I speak through the lives that walked before you. Look at Abraham when I called him out of his land in Genesis 1:21. My voice did not promise comfort. I only said, leave. To the land I will show you. I did not give him a map. I did not give him a timeline. I did not give him security according to human standards. I only gave him a word. Had temptation spoken then, it would have whispered that staying in his homeland was wisdom, that stability was the real blessing, that the future should only be pursued when it is visible. But Abraham discerned not because he had extraordinary inner strength, but because he knew my voice never pulls him toward false safety. It was because he chose to follow my voice that a lineage was born. That is the proof my voice opens what is greater than convenience. While temptation only keeps you trapped in what is temporary, I proved another truth through David. When David faced Goliath in 1 Samuel 17, he did not seek sweetness, nor did he demand an easy road. The voice of temptation at that time was the voice of fear, the voice of Israel that stood watching, unable to move. Fear said, "He is too big to fight." My voice inside, David said, "He is too big to ignore." I did not tell him to choose comfort. I brought him face to face with what terrified him. Do you see it? The voice of temptation always tells you to avoid, promising safety if you step back. My voice tells you to step in, not because you are strong enough, but because I am making you strong. The real blessing is not the feeling of peace before the battle. The real blessing is the victory after you have stood in my truth. David's trial was not the chain that bound him. It was the door that brought him into the place I chose. What people call burden, I call launchpad. I also proved this principle in myself when I went into the wilderness. Matthew 4 records that after I fasted 40 days, Satan came not with a whip, but with sweetness. He did not tell me to abandon the kingdom. He said, "If you are the Son of God, turn these stones into bread." Do you see it? He did not offer obvious sin. He offered a reasonable solution. He targeted legitimate need: hunger, exhaustion, weakness of the body. Temptation always tries to prove that what I give is too slow, that you can take beforehand if you act on your own. It does not ask you to break your faith, it only asks you to satisfy yourself. I did not respond with emotion, I responded with Scripture. It is written, "Man shall not live by bread alone." I showed you a pattern if you want to distinguish my voice from the voice of temptation. Do not ask whether it seems reasonable, ask whether it aligns with truth. Pay attention to the subtle difference in these 3 examples with Abraham. My voice required him to leave safety to reach what I intended. With David, my voice required him to step into the challenge instead of avoiding it in the wilderness. My voice required rejecting shortcuts instead of grasping immediate satisfaction. 3 times. I did not define blessing by comfort, I defined blessing by what is right. 3 times. I did not allow fear or sweetness to lead, I allowed purpose to lead. The sweetness of the world always appears before the fall, and the severity I bring always appears before the glory is revealed. Temptation comes before you have a foundation. I come to give you one. Temptation gives you the feeling of being lifted. I give you the ground so you will never need to search for lifting again. You must remember one crucial truth. My voice never contradicts the word I have spoken before. Temptation always appears as an exception, a special case, a unique situation. You will hear phrases like, "This time is different." No one will know. Only one more time. My voice never begins by bending principles. It begins by strengthening them. I do not lead through secrecy. I lead through light. Temptation only survives in the shadows, in the places where you refuse to look directly at your own conscience. I tell you this, not to frighten you, but to awaken your eyes. The single thing temptation fears is light. It hates truth. Not because truth hurts, but because truth destroys its power. Do not ask, my voice, "When will it get easier?" Ask, "When will I be deep enough to hear without distortion?" Temptation cannot attack a soul that has learned to discern. It only attacks souls still believing the improvisations of emotion. I do not call you to live by impulses. I call you to live by recognition. You have seen Abraham, David, and me in the wilderness not because their circumstances were the same, but because they shared one foundation. They did not measure right or wrong by convenience, or by the path of least pain, or by immediate feelings. They measured by my voice, and that will be the key you must carry before you step into any stage of your spiritual journey. When the soul begins to mature in me, you will notice that nothing in life seems obvious anymore. Compliments lose their power. Invitations shine less brightly. Shortcuts fade into dullness. This is not because you have grown cold, but because you are beginning to hear, at a depth others cannot distinguish, the level of my voice. I do not speak to you through spectacle. I speak through an unexplainable certainty. It does not set your heart ablaze with excitement. It awakens your soul with peace. This causes many to call you difficult to understand, because they are accustomed to seeing the world through short-term eyes. But I do not want you to see life like a child searching for candy. I want you to see life as one who understands that long roads require endurance. Once you have tasted the richness of my voice, sweet promises lose the power to seduce you. Once you have experienced my protection, material advantages lose the ability to weaken you. The difference rests in the soul itself. The one who hears my voice will live differently from the one who only hears the voice of temptation. There are things you once begged me to permit: a pleasant promise, a slightly opened door, an opportunity that looked like gold. I was silent, and in that silence, you assumed I had abandoned you. But now you understand I could have opened those doors in a moment, yet I did not, because they would have led your soul to pay with its essence. I do not build you through things that make you dependent on comfort. I build you through things that make you depend on me. I do not bless you so that you feel lifted, but so you learn how to stand. Sweetness easily steals your footing. Trials forge wings. Temptation always begins with, "Do not wait any longer," while my voice always begins with, "Look closely." In the moment you pause to discern, you disarm temptation of its greatest weapon, haste. There are days in silence when you feel lost in a desert, no signals, no maps. But you do not see that I am leading you into my classroom. The desert is where impulsive desires are worn down, where complex cravings are simplified, where the noise of the world reveals its hollowness. When no one is there to praise you, you learn to look to me to know if you are still on course. When no one is there to criticize you, you learn to listen to conscience once cleansed. I do not send you into solitude to torment you. I send you into solitude to speak with you. The deepest conversations do not happen in crowds. They happen where only you and I are present, where temptation cannot intrude because it cannot withstand light that stands too close to the heart. There will be moments when you step out of dangerous regions that the world will never notice. Not regions of violence or fear, but regions full of praise, full of pleasing indulgence, full of sweetness that lulls the soul to sleep. The tempter does not always arrive with a blade. Sometimes it arrives with a lullaby. It says, "You deserve a rest. You don't need to try anymore. Everyone breaks the rules once." These phrases sound reasonable, sound calming, even comforting. But once you have learned my voice, you will hear the hollowness in them. I do not lull you, I awaken you. I do not place you on a sofa, I place you on a launch pad. I do not want you to be stable through hiding. I want you to be at peace through standing. The peace I give is not the silence of avoidance, it is the stability of confrontation. When you become familiar with sacred stillness, temptation will change shape. It will no longer use emotion, it will use logic. It will say, "Be practical." No one can live by principle forever. A little compromise for speed is normal. But I teach you that the soul was not born to be a negotiator. The soul was born to be led by truth. The reality of the world is a snapshot of moments. My reality is divine intent. Human reasoning always rests on visible results. My reasoning rests on hidden purpose, seen only by humble hearts. If something requires you to stab through your principles, it is not my voice. If something demands secrecy, evasion, or concealment, it is not my voice. I do not ask you to walk in fear, I ask you to walk in faithfulness. There are transitions without any spotlight. No one applauds you. No one praises you. No one witnesses you. Yet these silent transitions are the spine of your life. I do not build the spine in an auditorium. I build it in the dark. When you learn to refuse what is sweet simply because it is not from me, that is victory. When you choose what is difficult solely because I have spoken it is right, that is victory. When you step back from applause to protect purity in your heart, that is victory. These victories come without medals, without fans, without celebrations. But I record, and I use those victories to unlock doors that no pleasant promise could ever unlock. And along that path, you will learn this: I never punish you with delay. I only remove from you what cannot follow your future. I do not let you lose opportunities. I ensure that the final opportunity does not require your soul as payment. People call it doors closing. I call it being protected. People call it failure. I call it purification. People call it not being chosen. I call it being preserved. When you understand this, you will walk through life with eyes that no longer tremble, with a heart that no longer flinches, with a soul that no longer seeks sweetness like the thirsty hunt mirages in a desert. You will know which wells are real and which are illusions. And from that moment, my voice will no longer feel distant. It will become the rock beneath your feet. There are seasons when I am silent, not to cast you back into confusion, but to train your soul to recognize my voice without emotional scaffolding. Before, you believed me only when I spoke loudly, when I acted visibly, when I opened doors before your eyes. But I want you to grow beyond that. I do not want you to live as a child who only recognizes the Father by his gifts. I want you to become spiritually mature, knowing how to sense me in each breath. When you do not hear my voice, you think the tempter has won, but in truth, that is when I watch to see how much you have learned from the times I have spoken. I observe not to punish, but to measure whether your discernment truly comes from within or only from dependence. And in the moment you begin to sift thoughts through what I have already spoken, instead of waiting for a new analysis, you step beyond temptation without even needing a dramatic fight. Spiritual maturity does not make noise. It silences false noise. When you have walked far enough in discernment, temptation will lower its tone. It will no longer come with visions of glory or comforting promises. It will sound like your own thoughts, like the inner voice, like the survival instinct of a soul once wounded. It will whisper, "Do not leave, the familiar staying here is safe." It will whisper, "Do not trust me too much if I fall silent. You will be disappointed." It will whisper, "Do not sacrifice again, no one sees how hard you are trying." These voices do not wear the face of devils, they wear the face of logic. But logic without my light becomes a saw that slowly cuts through the soul. I do not ask you to reject reason. I ask you to place reason under my light. When you do, those voices lose all power, not because they vanish, but because you understand that faithfulness does not require spectators. There are areas of life temptation cannot touch, but you open the door to it through exhaustion. You have been strong. You have walked through trials. You have refused shortcuts. Yet when you are tired, you become vulnerable to lullabies. I do not use your exhaustion against you. I use it to show you that your real weakness is not in willpower, but in how you measure yourself. If you think you are strong because you endure, temptation only needs to attack endurance. If you think you are strong because people need you, temptation only needs to attack usefulness. But if you know you are strong because I am in you, temptation has nowhere to anchor. I do not anchor your strength in achievements, in problem solving, in intellect, or in skill. I anchor strength in your connection to me, and anything that pulls you away from me, whether sweet or bitter, is temptation. There are people who enter your life like cool rain after a drought, and you assume I sent them to uplift you. But not every rain comes from me. Some rains come only to soften the soil so that the wrong seeds can be planted more easily. When you receive attention, admiration, or sweetness, you think those are signs that I have remembered you. But I want you to understand this: the love I give never comes to make you dependent. I send companions, not crutches to replace faith. I send those who know how to walk beside you, not those who pull you backward. And if your soul finds itself shrinking so that someone else can grow, if you must sacrifice discernment in order to keep comfort, that is not support, it is a gentle kind of bondage. I do not place destiny in the hands of people who love the light only when they are standing at its center. One of the deepest signs of recognizing my voice is that it preserves your wholeness. I do not ask you to break off a piece of your identity so that I may use the rest. I call the whole of you. I heal the whole of you. I position the whole of you. Temptation always divides you. It praises your strengths to hide your wounds. It grants approval in the areas where you hurt so that you stop healing those places. It whispers, "This is enough. Do not touch the past anymore." But I say, "Let me go deeper," because the old cannot walk with the new. Temptation creates false safety by keeping your pain intact. But I create true safety by pulling the roots of that pain out of your soul. You may endure discomfort for a season, but your soul will stand firm for a lifetime. When you begin to recognize my voice in the smallest decisions, temptation makes one last attempt. It dresses itself in morality. It will tell you that compassion is compromise. It will say that sacrifice means losing yourself. It will claim that humility is fear to advance. It will tell you that every principle should be flexible. Every faithfulness should be situational. Every word I speak should be adjusted to circumstance. But I speak a simple truth. What is right does not need flexibility in order to be called right. I do not need to revise truth to fit your journey. I want to revise your journey to fit truth. Temptation always changes its vocabulary to match the emotion of a season. But my voice holds the same decree so your soul may become steady. One word I speak holds more life than 1,000 consolations from people. There is a stage in the journey when you begin to recognize my voice, not by how impressive it feels, but by its depth. Not by how comfortable it seems, but by its authenticity. When you reach this threshold, my voice no longer comes as flaming promises, but as an underground current. It does not need to persuade you with images or paint the future in vibrant colors. It simply places in your heart a direction you cannot explain with data, yet cannot deny because of the peace it carries. This is the moment temptation weakens, not because it disappears, but because you no longer see the world through the eyes of someone seeking comfort. You see the world through the eyes of someone carrying a heritage that must be preserved. A soul with a calling does not need loud confirmation. It only needs the steady heartbeat of obedience. I do not teach you discernment so you may look wise to the world. I teach you discernment so you are not stolen from the destiny I wrote. Observe something subtle when you do not yet hear me clearly. Temptation attacks your lack of knowledge. When you begin to hear me, it attacks your impatience. But when you have learned how to be still, it attacks your lack of consistency. It does not hide in darkness, it hides in what is almost right. What is almost like me, what is almost the truth. People rarely fall because they are deceived by something evil. They fall because they are pulled by something half-true. A half-truth will always look entire until you realize your soul has stopped blooming. I speak this to warn you: whatever fills your heart but empties your spirit does not come from me. Whatever excites you but makes you break your principles does not come from me. Temptation does not need to take your faith. It only needs to tilt your center by 1 degree, and your entire journey will bend. When my words have soaked into your thoughts, temptation will try to come through emotion. But when you have learned to hold your emotions under discipline, it will come through what people say about you. It no longer attacks your desire to be loved, it attacks your desire to be understood. It will exploit your loneliness. No one understands you. No one walks with you. No one sees your worth. But I ask you one question, understood by whom? You walk the road I have appointed. Does the understanding of others measure its truth? I do not lead you into depth so that you become someone who explains yourself. I lead you into depth so that you no longer depend on being justified. When your discernment truly takes root, you no longer need the world's agreement to know that what you hear is real. Agreement is the currency of temptation. Spiritual stillness is the currency of my voice. There will be moments when you ask, why do you not say more? Why do you not make everything clear? I do not want you to turn me into a supplier of answers. I want you to turn me into the source of perception. If I solved every question with direct instruction, you would walk without looking toward me. But if I require you to reflect, wait, and discern, you will walk with your eyes fixed on me. I do not create gray spaces to torment you. I create them so your soul may not run on autopilot. My voice is not a formula or a procedure, it is a rhythm. Only those willing to enter silence, willing to abandon the demand for immediate signs, will hear that rhythm. Souls that belong to me do not chase roaring voices. They learn to hear the wind instead of waiting for the storm. I am training you to become such a soul. There comes a moment when my voice becomes familiar and you think you are safe. But I warn you, at that very moment, temptation will shift its shape once more. It will come by redefining what I said, by using my words against me. It will not tell you to abandon faith. It will tell you to reinterpret it for your situation. It will whisper, I did not mean endurance, that was only for the past. I did not mean sacrifice, I meant enjoyment of blessing. I did not mean discernment, I meant acceptance of every possibility. These words do not confront me, they circle around me. But that circle is the rope that binds the soul. I never alter my nature to fit a generation. I alter the generation to return it to my nature. You must examine every thought by its source. No faithfulness survives in the fog. My child, I want you to step into a higher realm, discern not only with the ears, but with the light. Light does not argue, it simply reveals. When something approaches you, place it under my light if it makes you hide. It is not from me. If it makes you shrink, it is not from me. If it causes you to adjust the truth just to maintain comfort, it is not from me. My voice always widens the soul, even when it must break the cocoon in front of your eyes. Temptation always freezes the soul, even though at first it feels like liberation. Whenever you stand at a crossroads, be silent, not out of fear, but out of reverence. Do not be silent to avoid pain, but silent so that I have space to speak. You do not receive my voice in haste. You receive it in surrender. And when your heart bows deeply enough, my voice is no longer an option. It becomes the only truth that can enter. There is a moment when every lesson about discernment is no longer simply knowledge, but becomes a natural breath. You no longer need to ask every minute whether this is my voice, because your soul has moved from hearing to alignment. Just as a tree in the forest does not need anyone to remind it to turn toward the sun, your soul needs no one to push it toward the truth. I do not train you to chase my voice in fear. I train you so that you live in my voice as an environment. That is when temptation loses its form. It no longer arrives as sweet promises. It appears like pointless gusts of wind brushing past your shoulder. You no longer need to close the door against it, for the door has been given a new spiritual hinge. Anything that does not align with me will no longer align with you. When the soul is mature, it no longer fears the dark. It causes the dark to withdraw. I do not make you into one who reacts. I make you into a source of waves. And wherever you go, temptation is forced to recoil. I have placed in you a role the world cannot explain. You will not only discern for yourself, but become a marker through which others recognize my voice. not through long speeches or forceful reasoning, but through your life. When you refuse false sweetness, those around you will see that not every sweetness comes from heaven. When you choose to step into the right challenge at the right time, they will see that a challenge is not always punishment. When you hold to principle in the face of seduction, they will see that faithfulness is not for the rigid, but for those who know they carry a purpose. I do not give you discernment only to keep yourself from damage. I give it so you can be a beacon in the night. The world looks at your light without knowing that it does not come from talent or willpower, but from the fact that you have listened to me long enough that no other voice can control you. In peaceful days, temptation will not come as an enemy, it will come as an old friend. It will remind you of things that once made you comfortable, places of false safety that once convinced you that you never needed to go further. But this time, you will not long to return, not because you fear failure, but because you see how small those places truly are. Temptation can only manipulate souls that have never tasted the worth of obedience. But once you step into the field, I lead where every step has purpose, you will understand that comfort holds no appeal for those who have touched meaning. I do not change the nature of temptation, I change the nature of your soul. A soul that knows it belongs to me will not bow to lullabies, because it has learned what awakening sounds like. Do not think that discernment makes you hard. It is discernment that creates true compassion. You will know how to love without abandoning your principles, how to protect without closing yourself off, how to embrace the weak without sacrificing your soul for them. I do not need you to become perfect, I need you to become awake. Temptation appears when the soul is tired, but it takes root when the soul lacks protection. Protection does not come from isolation, protection comes from truth. When you stand upon the truth, you do not need the arms of others to lift you. You become the anchor by which others find direction. But I warn you, do not hand temptation the key in the name of helping others. No one can break another's chains by binding themselves with chains. You may lead them to the water, but you must not drink poison in their place. The world will tell you that steadfastness is stubbornness. I tell you that steadfastness is spiritual wisdom. The world will tell you that what is right is what the majority chooses. I tell you that what is right is what I speak. The world will say temptation is an opportunity. I say temptation is an examination. When you have discerned long enough, your wisdom will no longer lie in grand decisions, but in the small choices no one sees, where you refuse what is slightly wrong in order to preserve what is wholly right. I do not measure the soul by loud victories, I measure it by the quiet moments in which you choose me. People will not know these choices, but heaven knows. Temptation knows, and your soul knows, and it is precisely this that makes you no longer easy to fall. You stand because you have learned to hear me, and because when you hear me, no other voice is strong enough to replace mine. May the Lord continually remind you to live each day in His faith and His love. Be sure to follow and turn on notifications so you never miss the sacred and meaningful messages He desires to speak. May God bless you. Amen.